Hi, welcome to my channel Reading with Reese's. My name is Jennifer. Today is going to be my favorite books of 2016, specifically my favorite nonfiction books. So it was just going to be too long a video to do both nonfiction and fiction together, so I will be posting my fiction video on Wednesday. But anyway, let's get started on going over my favorite nonfiction books. First book I want to talk about is Big Magic, Creative Living Beyond Fear by Elizabeth Gilbert of Eat, Pray, Love fame. So this is her kind of musings on creativity and where her creativity comes from and where creativity comes from in general. She talks about the history of creativity and how our perception of it has evolved over the years, how back Greeks, Romans, there were muses and they visited you, and now it has become something that you have this innate talent, and if it leaves you, you have that's all on you, and this tragic artist, you're supposed to suffer for your art, and she calls that bullshit essentially and doesn't really put that much stock in it. She wants us to revel in our creativity and love it, and she tells just such interesting stories. She's don't quit your day job, you need to be practical in pursuit of your creativity. She talks about her creative journey, about how she got started as an author and how long it took. She talks about this really interesting story with Ann Patchett and how it seemed like one idea that she had been sitting on for a couple of years, just kind of magically transferred from her to Ann Patchett. And it was a really interesting story and a really interesting kind of treatise on creativity. I listened to this on audio and it was amazing. I had to go buy a physical copy. And it's read by Elizabeth Gilbert, so she is actually really funny, and I just really loved this. This was just such an interesting read, and it really just makes you examine your own creativity and your own process and how you look on what creativity is exactly, and how also look at just the cultural things you have been taught through how culture looks at creativity. And I just highly recommend this. This was great. The second book I want to talk about is The Hour of Land, A Personal Topography of America's National Parks by Terry Tempest-Williams. Terry Tempest-Williams is a nature writer. This came out right before the 100th anniversary of the National Park Service in 2016, and it consists of 12 essays where Terry Tempest-Williams talks about her connection to the individual parks in those essays. She grew up in Utah next to Grand Teton National Park and has a strong connection to that park, and her family would go there all the time. One essay talks about the first national park and how the National Park Service kind of came into being. One essay talks about Theodore Roosevelt National Park in North Dakota and how the natural gas and oil industry and drilling has really affected the park there, and how it's coming up right on the park's borders. One of my other favorite essays in this was about the Gulf parks, and in response to the 2010 oil spill, and how that oil spill affected the parks. She went down there right as it was still happening, and talks about her experience down there. And she also just talks about how the importance of having national park land and land that isn't going to get built upon or drilled on, and how important it is to have just this land set aside, because humans can't live in concrete jungles. We need the green, we need these things, and how it can affect lower our stress levels, and how happy it makes us, and that we really need it. And so really it's a call for action for people who want to preserve the parks, especially in thinking about the election, the results of the election this year, and how we're probably going to have a tough time of it, with either granting new areas and preserving new areas, or even just rolling back, fighting against the rollback of environmental protection. So I mean, this was amazing, and just really, really makes you think. And I got to meet her at Politics and Prose. I was able to get it signed. You see there. So, I really loved it. I highly recommend it if you're interested in reading about our national parks and our preserved lands and how important they are. It made me want to go on a giant road trip and visit every single national park that we have here in the US, especially when she talked about Glacier National Park in Montana, and how the glaciers are disappearing. It made me want to go and see it before they disappear. And I mean, it was just so good and so eye-opening. And if you care at all about national parks and environmental issues, this is a great book. The third nonfiction book, and really I think this is my favorite book of the year, was The Invention of Nature, Alexander von Humboldt's New World by Andrea Wolf. I talked about this in my nonfiction November wrap-up, so I will post that in the in the show notes below, and so you can watch that if you want to hear more about it. But I absolutely loved this book. I mean, it was really just amazing to see how much impact Alexander von Humboldt had on just the reigning scientists of the past, and people we hear about all the time. And it was just amazing. So I highly recommend this. Well, there you have it. Those are my favorite nonfiction reads of 2016. You'll have to let me know if you've read any of them and what you thought in the comments. Also, what are your favorite nonfiction reads? I'd love to hear about them. Anyway, I hope you have a happy new year. Don't forget, I'll be posting my favorite fiction reads on Wednesday. All right, bye.